And the majority of the dogs were not in great condition. A lot of them had injuries, but I think the Tomohon dogs were some of the most traumatized dogs I've ever come across. Our opinion poll shows that over 40% of the population has consumed dog meat, and so there is a real trade there.
Salam DW Dua Layar bersama saya Ayu Purwaningsih. Kali ini kita akan berbincang dengan Lola Webber. Dia adalah aktivis dari Humane Society International yang menolong anjing-anjing yang diperdagangkan di Tomohon, Sulawesi Utara. Lola, perhaps you can tell us how is the challenge in helping them?
Tomohon Extreme Market is the province's most notorious market, where it was actually branded Extreme Market in a way to almost encourage tourists to go and visit this place. Myself, my team, we first started going to Tomohon to visit the market and to try and lobby for change back in 2017. And since then, we've been working hard to lobby the government, the local authorities, and also to try and work with the traders themselves to try and encourage them to leave this trade behind. And as you can imagine, we face many challenges because there is significant consumption rates in Tomohon. For example, our opinion poll shows that over 40% of the population has consumed dog meat, and so there is a real trade there. Having said that, we also met with many local activists, including our partner group, Animal Friends Manado Indonesia. Of course, we still have challenges. We still need to continue to work with the authorities. We still need to continue to do our public awareness campaigning in Tomohon and beyond to make sure that we keep that momentum and that support against the dog and cat meat trades.
What is the next effort that you and your team needs to do in order to stop the dog selling permanently in Sulawesi?
Yeah, so North Sulawesi obviously doesn't just consist of Tomohon Extreme Market where dogs and cats are sold and slaughtered. There are many, many other markets and slaughterhouses that are used to supply dogs and cats. So it is a big problem at the provincial level. However, we are committed to working at that provincial level to try to really stem the supply of dogs and cats. So we know that over 90% of the dogs and cats that end up in these markets and slaughterhouses in North Sulawesi actually come from other provinces on the island of Sulawesi, either directly from Gorontalo, which it neighbors with, or via Gorontalo. So some dogs will come from as far away as South Sulawesi, but they're trafficked up into North Sulawesi via Gorontalo. So our work is to really try and work with the authorities to enforce regulations which already are in place that prohibit the trans-provincial movement of dogs and cats linked to efforts to combat rabies. And this is a really strong argument that we use when we're working with the authorities and legislators, is that we know from evidence spanning throughout Asia, including Indonesia, that the dog meat trade and rabies transmission. So we want to work with the authorities to create checkpoints of all animals moving into the province of North Sulawesi, targeting dog and cat meat traders, so that essentially the supply of dogs and cats ceases. If these two checkpoints at the entry points of Sulawesi were enforced, that would end the supply of dogs and cats. And I think if you take away the supply of dogs and cats, I think there's enough local support to accept a ban on the dog and cat meat trade that in time we could really end the supply and subsequently the demand for dog meat permanently in North Sulawesi.
How is the condition of the dogs when you found them and then until now you brought them to United States?
And the majority of the dogs were not in great condition. A lot of them had injuries. A number of them also were obviously showing signs of disease, dehydration, all of them, malnutrition, all of them. And they were in just generally physically very, very poor condition. And then out of all of the dogs, maybe with the exception of a couple, they were terrified of people. And then there were a couple very, very traumatized. And the trauma was, I've worked in dog rescue from the dog meat trade in several parts of Asia, but I think the Tomohon dogs were some of the most traumatized dogs I've ever come across. They bit by bit started to kind of recover. Some were still, up until they were transported to the US, still very, very withdrawn and nervous around people. But for most of them, over time, you can really help to rehabilitate them. And the great thing is that our team in the US is specifically trained and qualified to deal with these very traumatized animals and to help them really overcome that fear. So now that they're in the US, they can really go through thorough rehabilitation. For some dogs, it will take a matter of a couple of weeks. For other dogs, it might take longer to really help them overcome and be ready to be placed into their forever homes. But now that they're in the best hands they could be in, and I have every confidence that they will be in their forever homes very soon, and whoever gets to adopt them is very, very lucky.